Hey, GW, coming back to you live. We're going to dive right into the Tourist Trap review as promised. Tourist Trap, of course, was put out by Full Moon Entertainment. For those of you who do not know who Full Moon Entertainment is, they are a low-budget horror company. They do things on a very, very low budget. Their hits include Puppet Master, Evil Bong, Ginger Dead Man, Arcade with the Christmas Stories Peter Billingsley, which actually surprisingly is a interesting, well done movie. Now, Full Moon's other rival in the B movie company is Troma. Troma put out such classics as The Toxic Avenger, Class of Nukem High, Death by Temptation, Redneck Zombies, Rabid Grannies, just to name a few. So anyway, this film was done in 1979 and it was directed by David Schmoller, who brought you Full Moon's other classic, Puppet Masters, and a movie called Crawl Space, which I have never seen, and I think Klaus Kinski is in that film. I'm not sure, but I always passed it up because to me, it seemed too weird. Now, Tourist Trap is considered one of the most frightening films of all time because everything in the film is frightening. There are layers of things that are going on in this film. And this film has to do with a psychotic wax museum owner named Mr. Slauson. Mr. Slauson has a lot of screws loose, and basically he likes taking tourists and stranded motorists and turning them into living mannequins. You also find out that his wife died early of cancer, and in his way is trying to find somebody that looks just like his wife. Now, this was after the 1964 movie, or 1960s movie, The House of Wax with Vincent Price. It takes some of the same overtones to it. And it is very, very creepy in nature. I mean, this film makes mannequins a very scary thing. And again, there's a lot of things going on in here. And until you reach the climax of this film, you're not going to know what it is. But the other thing I want to talk about is the film's rating. Now, this film in 1979 was given a PG rating. But if you watch the film, there are some brutal murder sequences here. You have a knife going into the back of the head. You have an axe going into the back of the shoulder blade. You have a woman whose face is covered up with plaster in a graphic suffocation scene. Despite all of that, the MPAA goes, okay, you can have your PG. So because they had a PG rating, they were able to, not only send this thing out on syndication and basic cable, but it was a much more recognized film. Now, I'm not going to lie, this thing is creepy, and Stephen King actually said that the mannequins in this film are very creepy, and it did get some praise, again, from Stephen King. When you watch this film the first time, you kind of would automatically pass it off. But watch it again, and it does hold a power over you. You can't stop thinking about this movie, trust me. One of the other interesting things is that Chuck Connors, he's a legendary actor, or was. He played in The Rifleman, and he played in a movie called Werewolf. He's in the film. He plays the psychotic Mr. Slauson. His performance is something that is, what's the word I'm looking for? Very well done. Excellent. That's the word I was looking for. And you really, until you watch the finished product, you don't know where he's coming from. And I'm not going to ruin it for you, but at some point in the film, you do think there's two psychotic people in this wax museum area. The other thing it does is it stars Tanya Roberts. Now, Tanya Roberts, you'll recognize her. She's in the 70s show. You get to see her as a young teenager in this film, which I thought was pretty interesting because I really didn't know that the first time I watched it. The only drawback is that as creepy as the mannequins are, as creepy as the story is that the effects, some of them come off really good, some of them come off pretty horrible. Now, Mr. Slosson's character too, he reminds you of a watered down Leatherface type figure, because he also likes to dress up in the wax mannequin masks and the full wardrobe and the garb. And it does make for a creepy film, and he is the perfect villain because, like I said, you would not expect him to be psychotic. There are scenes in this movie where you'd think he's a normal everyday guy. Now, the one thing that Full Moon did right about this is they put out the regular version. They also saw there was a high demand for this Blu-ray, so they went back to the negative 2K negative, or 35 millimeter negatives, and they added 5 minutes of lost footage. I really don't know what the lost footage is, because I had never really compared the two cuts. So if you're wanting to know more about it, I'm sure you can, Google up on YouTube what's the difference between the theatrical version of Tourist Trap to the uncut version. Definitely a very creepy movie as far as atmosphere and story. And the thing is that, again, this is like Willy's Wonderland. You're either going to dig it and you're going to stay with it, or you are going to dismiss it as totally stupid and ridiculous, and you're not going to give it a chance. Which, if you don't, you're really missing out on a very, very classic horror film. And just because it's put out by Full Moon, I want to reiterate that this is probably one of the better Full Moon movies that they have put out in terms of budget, look, even the sound. The sound gets you going because it plays that sort of happy animation movie theme songs whenever the characters in the wax museum or the mannequins come to life. So definitely check out, Tourist Trap. It does have a lot of stuff going for it. And like I said, it's one of those ones you have to pay attention to, because the more you get out of the story and the more you take the atmosphere, it does stick with you. It does leave you not forgetting about it. It's not forgettable. You know what I mean? And like I said, the other surprising thing, as I just mentioned, is that the murder scenes in here are pretty graphic. I mean, for a PG. So you have that going for you. Which the ratings board in the 70s were goofy anyways. I mean, they allowed one thing to go, but then stopped something lesser than that. It's a ridiculous thing. But Tourist Trap is definitely worth your time. So I hope you stop there, check it out. And if not for nothing, like I said, if you're a fan of Tanya Roberts, check it out. If you know Chuck Connors from other shows, you'd probably want to see him take a turn as a psycho wax museum owner. And this is also produced by Charles Band's brother. Now, Charles Band was the guy who created Full Moon Pictures. That was his deal. In fact, they have a whole streaming site. If you like Tourist Trap and you want to see more of their stuff, fullmoonstreaming.com, you can go online. I know I signed up for it, and because they love their fan base so much, they sent me about 6 or 8 DVDs of my choice. And I didn't know anything about them, but I was like, okay, let's get this one. This one sounds good. So maybe they have that promotion now. I don't know. But it's worth checking into. fullmoonstreaming.com. But I got to tell you guys, a lot of their stuff is on the cheap. They use a lot of puppetry. But they are very good at what they do. But this is, like I said, one of the better well-done Full Moon films. And it definitely deserves your time. I can't say anything more about it. I mean, you just got to jump in and check it out. It's very, very creepy. And I hope this film does what Jaws did and make you afraid of the water. If you're about, 10, 12 and you see this, I hope it scares the crap out of you when you see a mannequin. You just get that in your head, crazy. So, definitely check it out. Tourist Trap, 1979, Full Moon Pictures. Give this probably, I'd say 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. And Willy's Wonderland, well, that's a 9 out of 10. Like I said, I got up early to watch that film in the last review, and I really dug it. I wish they'd make a sequel. I hope to God they do. So, GW. And those are our reviews for this weekend. Stay tuned next week.